How's it going? I got a little something different for you today. If you are a sci-fi fan and you love pretty much everything sci-fi, then you're probably in the same boat as me where you're constantly on the lookout for better movies, better books, things that you just can sink into and enjoy. When it comes to movies and shows, I'm always constantly just searching for the new, just something that grips and holds my attention and just I'm immersed into, and I just love it. If you watched the video a while back where I talked about some of my favorites that have done that over the years, you would see, things like Event Horizon and, movies like that where it's just like a deep space salvage crew type thing, or like Firefly where there's this ragtag group or team of people going across like the universe looking for, there's just that I'm drawn into those kind of things. So I thought, I'm always on the lookout and I'm always watching terrible movies in hopes that they'll be good. And I'm always trying to find different things that are good, even though they're not great, but they kind of scratch that itch a little bit, So I have a bunch of streaming services. I have like YouTube Plus, I have HBO Max, I have Paramount Plus, Prime, Netflix, Peacock, like on and on and on and on. Because we don't have regular cable. I just, pay for the streaming services, and it's even less than having regular cable. Do people have regular cable anymore? Is that a thing still? I don't know. I haven't forever. So and Peacock used to be free, but I think there's like a $4.99 premium for it where you have ads, and then now it's like $9.99 and no ads or something. Anyways, I went on Peacock the other day and I was just looking at sci-fi movies under the sci-fi genre, and there's quite a few good ones on there. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to watch some of these other terrible ones, or ones that I'm not sure about, or ones that I'm assuming are really bad, and see if I can find any good ones out of it that I haven't seen before. So I put together a little list, and I thought maybe you guys might want to have some insight into some of that as well. So if you're like me, you're always on the lookout. So here's my little list. These are ones that I have seen in the past that are on there right now that are actually good. So probably the best one, or one of the top ones, is Pitch Black for me. If you haven't seen this movie, it is several years old now. It's Vin Diesel before the Fast and Furious series. If you like Yellowstone, it's Cole Hauser's in it. Rip. Right? Isn't Cole Hauser in it? Am I tripping? Yes, it is Cole Hauser. I just had to double check. So Vin Diesel before Fast and Furious, Cole Hauser's in it, who's Rip in Yellowstone, if you like that show. And it is it's kind of just a dark filmed film that the idea is basically everything goes pitch black, and when it goes pitch black, bad things happen. So if you have seen it in the past, you'll know it's enjoyable. And then they had a sequel that wasn't so good. I don't think that one's on there. But then Riddick, which came out after that, is kind of like a third installment, or I don't know if it was a reboot really, but it's kind of a third installment, I guess. And Riddick was actually decent as well. So both Pitch Black and Riddick are on Peacock for you to watch if you so desire. Another one that's on there that's really decent is Matt Damon in Elysium. I think this is kind of came out a little bit after District 9, and it's just a good space-aged movie. It's not set like off in deep space or something like that, but they have the whole the suits with the like the beefed up body suits where it gives them more power and things like that. I don't know, it's fun. Europa Report, and that Elysium's not fantastic or anything, but it's enjoyable. Europa Report is kind of a lower budget, deep space expedition, kind of traveling to another planet. I think it's one of the moons on Jupiter is where they're headed to see. They think they might have seen some form of life, so they're on the way there. It's kind of filmed in like a found footage documentary style, and they do some neat things with it by jumping ahead, jumping back, coming to certain points in time and continue on type stuff. It's pretty cool. Well done. It's enjoyable. it kind of scratches that itch for something deep space, traveling with things happening and difficulties and how do they get past it kind of enjoyment. It's a fun one. Minority Report is also on there. Minority Report is based on the short story by Philip K. Dick and stars Tom Cruise. You probably have seen it. Most people have, where they can kind of predict or they have these little prophecies from I forget what they're called. There's 3 people in the tank that can see this thing ahead of time. They see a murder happen, and then it gives them a time frame of when they can get there to stop the murder from happening. So, and then, complications arise. But it's an enjoyable movie as well. It is not deep space kind of thing either. It's more set on what we're familiar with, but explores the science fiction side of things. So then Upgrade is also on there. This one maybe people have not heard of. I don't think it's up there with some of those other ones like Minority Report, but it's not low budget either. It is and I had seen this one before I started kind of going through. Upgrade is I think basically the basic premise, without ruining anything, is the guy gets like an implant that can upgrade his body because if I remember right, he like broke his neck or something like that. And so this implant or robotically controlled thing controls his body for him. Like when he desires to move, it helps him to move, and his nervous system doesn't do it anymore. And basically it starts misfiring or going haywire. And so throughout the movie, it's really cool because he's playing like a surprised look on his face when things are happening, but also acting out the movements and doing things as if he was actually doing them because the thing's controlling him, but he is trying to stop it or surprised that it's happening. And it's a really enjoyable movie. It's fun to watch. I think it's pretty gruesome, pretty bloody and violent. So be aware of that. 12 Monkeys, a classic is on there with Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis. Brad Pitt plays just a wackadoodle, and it's great, and it's one of the funnest things I've seen Brad Pitt play, and when I first saw it, I really enjoyed him, and I was like, man, Brad Pitt's kind of cool. I like this guy. And it has to do with time travel and things like that, so if that's your thing. Kind of maybe some honorable mentions here that are on there. 2012 apocalyptic kind of disaster movie where the world's ending in 2012, back when everybody was like, oh, the Mayan calendar ends, so the world's going to end. And so kind of like the Y2K thing where the computers aren't programmed to hit 2000, it's all going to shut down and we're all going to die. It was that kind of taking advantage of that time frame and making a movie that the world ends in 2012. So and it has what's his name? The one holding up the radio to the window, and why can't I think of his name right now? Totally drawn a blank. He has a sister who acts. Wow. 100% drawing a blank. I'll come back to it, I'm sure. It'll pop in my head in a minute. Probably not, but I might try. So another one that's on there is Core, or The Core, I think it is. And it's got Hilary Swank in it. And basically the core of the Earth stopped rotating, and so the Earth is going to die. So they drill down to the core, and the goal is to set off a nuclear explosion, hoping to restart the core. Almost similar to Sunshine, if you've seen that premise but the sun is dying, so they want to kickstart the sun. Here they want to kickstart the core of the Earth. So if you haven't seen Sunshine, it's not on Peacock, but it is a good one to find. So it's a good one. It's decent. It's fun. There's, it's a typical action type movie, far-fetched, but fun, And then John Cusack. I got it. Cusack is the one in 2012. Sorry, there we go. Then finally, kind of another honorable mention, whatever, is Cowboys and Aliens. So this has Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig, and I think, is it Olivia Wilde? maybe in it. I don't know. But it's set in like an Old West time. I think Jon Favreau directed it, if I remember right. Or he's in it or something. It's been a minute since I've seen it. But basically, it's Old West time, and aliens arrive, and they fight. So it's goofy, silly, fun, action-packed, entertaining, whatever. So those are the ones that I had seen in the past that I knew were decent, and so they're all available on Peacock that you can see. Then there's 3 other ones that I've seen that are Russian films, because I lived in Ukraine for a while, and I a lot of stuff is in Russian or made, from Russia. So there was 3, the Netflix there has all that stuff, but there's 3 on Peacock that I had seen when I was there. One of them is Coma, and it's actually a really decent movie. The idea is that these people, when someone goes into a coma, they go to this other place that is like another world that's made up of everybody's collective dreams. So they're in this coma world, and everybody who's in a coma is in the same world with all their dreams mashed together, but they can interact with each other and things like that. And it's quite interesting. It's not the greatest movie ever, and it is dubbed. So if you speak Russian and you would like to watch it in the original language, I'm sure it's much better. But the dubbed version isn't so bad either. It's not terrible. So that's a fun one to watch, Coma. Another one is the Blackout. And basically in the Blackout, everything across the world, the power goes out except for in Russia. I think it's Moscow. I think it's Moscow. Like everywhere the power goes out except for there. It's the only place, and they have to kind of defend it. Simple premise, kind of unique premise, but it's okay. It's just an action flick that's okay. You see people doing stupid stuff, and you're like, why are you doing that? If you're in that situation, you'd never do that. That's the dumbest move ever, but it's still, if you just shut off and watch it, it's fun. Then there's really high budget CGI ones that have come out. The story's okay, but there's these ones. It's called Attraction, and then Attraction 2, or there may be another name for the second one, but basically it's Attraction 1 and 2. I actually haven't seen number 2 yet, but Attraction 1 has some of the like coolest CGI that I've seen in a movie. Like it's up there with some of the greats, and it came out a while ago, and I was really surprised when I saw it, how good it was. The acting is cheeseball. The some of the things people do is the same thing. You're like, why are you doing that? That's stupid. Who would do that? A big old asteroid's coming to Earth, so everybody goes up on top of the buildings and stares at it, hoping it'll hit them. Just okay, whatever. But anyways, it was okay. It was fun, but the CGI is really cool, and it was very impressive and very enjoyable to watch, even when the dialogue was a little cheesy. It gets a little better as it goes along. And then I think towards the end it kind of dies back down a little bit, but it's worth watching. So out of the ones that I watched, there is probably I would say 4 that I actually was like, okay, some of these are all right. Out of the ones that I like, the cheeseball ones I watched, there's some terrible ones. Terrible ones, and I'm not counting ones like How to Train Your Dragon and stuff is on there. Those are fantastic, so those just kind of don't count. Everybody should love those. You should watch them all the time. That's just given. But there's some classics that are really good that are on there too, but the cheesy ones I'm talking about, like, they're not even good enough for sci-fi TV kind of thing. They're just like, how did it ever get produced? How did this even get made? Like, where did this come from? It's crazy how somebody would spend the budget to make this movie and know that it was this bad kind of thing. There was 4 kind of honorable ones out of that were decent. First one I would say is Radius. So Radius is okay. The idea is this guy gets basically he wakes up after getting in like a car accident or something, and he wakes up and so he comes to find out that anybody within a certain radius of him dies. So if someone gets near, they just drop over dead, basically, like someone pulled the plug, their eyes cloud over, and they just and so he has to figure out what to do. He can't go near anybody, he can't have doctors look at him, he can't do anything like that. And then the story progresses. I don't want to give too much away. There's, some neat little twists and turns, and it was decent. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't as cheeseball as some of the other ones, and I think it's worth your time to watch. If you're like desperately looking for new ideas and fun stuff to watch, and you've seen every other sci-fi movie out there. If you haven't, and you've never watched sci-fi, go back to the one where I talk about my favorite, like 35, and you can start with those ones, okay? Those ones, they're not the greatest movies of all time, but they're ones that brought me the most enjoyment. You can at least start there before I would go to Radius or something like that. But if you're like me and you're constantly looking for something new and you constantly want something good, something that like captures your attention, then these ones are decent. The next one was Automata, and it was not great. It has Antonio Banderas, so I thought, okay, man, this might be a little bit better than some other things. And it starts off kind of good. It kind of dies in the middle, though, is the problem. But then it kind of picks back up, and it's action kind of, it's not fantastic, but it starts off strong and then, kind of fizzles out. But he does a good job. It's just okay kind of thing. Another one was These Final Hours, and I think it's an Australian-made film. And basically, they know the world is going to end. So what does everybody do when you only have like 10 hours left or whatever? And it's just chaos. Like everybody's just partying and doing whatever. And as you can imagine, there's some wicked things happening. And right off the bat, we have this guy who's the main character, and he's traveling. His whole thing is he's going to a party at his friend's house or whatever. And on his way there, he sees some people doing something detestable, and he has to decide whether to stop them or not. And from there, it kind of makes the story move along. And it's actually really, there's some disturbing things in it, but it's actually really good. It's not the best acting on the planet, but it's not terrible either. It was thoroughly enjoyable. It was one that I watched and I wasn't distracted by. I wasn't like, oh, whatever, I'm just letting it roll and not really paying attention. I actually kind of had my interest throughout it. So there's a weird party scene in the middle where everybody's doing all kinds of crazy stuff that you can kind of skip through if you need to. And then finally, I think this is probably one of the better ones that was like really interesting and had a great idea. It was this movie called Coherence. And I don't know if people have heard of this one before, but the idea is that a comet is going across the sky, and as this comet's going across, there's a group of people that are meeting at a home for like a dinner party. As the comet's going across, they find that all this weird stuff starts happening. Their phones break, or people start getting headaches, lights go out, things like that. And as they go and they discover that all the lights are out, they go outside to try to fix it, and they realize that there's a house down the street that has the lights on. And so they're going, what the heck? Everybody's out and they're not. So they go to try to talk to them or see what's going on. And from there, they find out that it's basically like another almost mirror image of their own dinner party, and they're seeing themselves here. And so then just kind of crazy things start happening throughout, and there's some nice little neat turns and twists in the movie, and it's worth watching. So those are my recommendations for Peacock. If you like this video, let me know, because I kind of do this all the time on my own for fun. But if you want me to share it with you, I will. And I think I'm going to at least do the horror movies on Peacock as well, just so you guys can have that, because I enjoy horror also. And there's a lot of cheeseball ones out there too. So let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts, likes, comments, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know what's up. All right, talk to you later. Bye.